All right. Hello, 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 beautiful people. We are back with another episode of Black and Audacious, where we talk about bold ideas, interview even bolder guests, and talk all things pop culture, as well as the shenanigans that come with it. I'm your host Nakia, joined by my amazing co hosts, Akate and Tawanda. And today, what you see, if you are watching us video wise, we have an incredible guest joining us today. Someone we've known for quite some time now. She is amazing, ultimate professional and perfectionist in her realm. I mean, I can't say, I could say so many things about this woman, but she is just a light. Ever since we have met her, she has been just such an amazing force and has inspire me in a lot of different ways. So please welcome Sabrina Merritt. She is the founder and CEO of October Social Media. We actually have partnered with Sabrina and her team in the past, and they are an Atlanta-based social media agency that actually specializes in highly regulated industries. We'll get to that a little bit later. But when she's not running her thriving business, because sis is getting the coins, okay? She is bringing her creativity full circle as a former member of a girl group. So we'll get into that as well. I mean, we got a lot to unpack today. But, okay, I just had to make sure that you get the intro you deserve, Sabrina.
I appreciate that.
To Black and Audacious. We are so excited to have you.
Thank you so much, ladies. I am excited to be here. I have been watching the episodes and secretly saying if they don't invite me, it's okay. I'll be fine. Support, but I hope at some point I get an invite because I love to chat and kiki and help the people, but also get together with good folks and have fun.
You've always been on the list, Sabrina. Always been on the list.
Always.
I was like, oh, I feel like I'm Black and audacious. I like fun. So I know when the invite came through, I was like, okay, check.
If anybody is the epitome of Black and audacious, mixed with Black girl magic, mixed with just zestiness, it's Sabrina. Okay.
Yes.
So let's get into
a story time really quickly. Okay, so just from an introduction standpoint, I know that I was introduced to Sabrina in a working capacity where both of our agencies were working with particular clients. And one of the things that, especially in our industry, especially if you're working with a tech company or enterprise-based companies, the further you go up, the less you see of us in these rooms. And I just remember Sabrina meeting her for the first time at this kickoff meeting and / workshop where we were working with this particular client. And I want to kind of set the stage of what this room looked like. So it was all female and males on the end. And then the other dynamic to this room is that there's 2 Black women in the room, and that's myself and Sabrina. So with that being said, we're going through, the workshop, doing different exercises and everything. And then it comes to question around, with social media, what is that strategy going to look like and this and that. And this woman, she opens her mouth and I'm like, let me scoot my seat up a little bit because she's pulling these people on her area of expertise and making me proud. So that meme with Rihanna when she's like, I had when I was just like, I am so, first and foremost, I'm so proud. Secondly, I'm so inspired by this woman and her presence and what she brings to the table. And then on top of that, you're the ultimate professional, and you literally stop these people in their tracks because they were just like, who is she? And we don't know what to do. But what they did do is listen. Your strategy that you were unrolling, to them. And then it was beautiful. So that's my introduction to Sabrina. Yes. Of course, in these sorts of instances, I'm always just so proud to be in rooms with other Black women who exhibit excellence in the work that they do. And I'm just so happy that relationship has continued on, these various number of years that we've known each other. So I give you your flowers. because I know that to me, you are the best in the business at what you do. So I want to give you your flowers for that.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate that. And side note, I felt the exact same way about you, really all of you, and watching you work together. And so I try to make it my business, like, you know, this company is vouching for me. They're saying Sabrina is the person you need to talk to. So when you talk to me, I want to damn well be that person. Like, oh, no explanation needed about why you recommended Sabrina. And especially when other people are recommending me, I really am like, I think about the client. I always want to deliver, and I love what I do. But I also think about, you know, someone was looking out for me. Someone mentioned my name in this room, and that's why I'm here. And I want to make sure that when we leave, everyone looks good, so that I, you know, that's how you keep the checks. Nakia, that you mentioned before, the coins,
the coins.
That's called a billfolds. That's how you keep the notes coming
in. Bills, yes, I love it.
While we're being specific in language, all currency, and it's available for all currency. Yes.
Right. Yes, we accept everything.
Exactly.
Crypto, but no. Sabrina, you're amazing. I mean, obviously, you know, Akate talked about just, you know, meeting you, but your career path ultimately is super unique. I mean, you know, from social media to you do entrepreneurship so well. Like, I'm always just moved, like, you know, all the different things that October social media has. And obviously we talked a little bit about, you know, your stint in the girl group, which we'll get into that a little bit later. But before we dive into the business, I mean, we know so much about you. I want to know if there is maybe another fun fact about yourself that most people don't know. We've known so much about you, but I wonder if there's something else out there that you can throw.
Well, I'll save all the music stuff for when we talk about that in the interview. I would say a fun fact is that I am a fashion girly, an interior design girly. My mom has always worked in retail. I grew up in New York. Fashion and just interior design, a major part of my mom's life, of my life. And it's actually what I do for fun, believe it or not. So when I feel like stressed and I'm like, I need to be creative, I need to do something, I start changing things in our home. We just moved into this house a little over 2 years ago. So we did a lot of renovating. So now there's still a lot of stuff to do, art to buy. So that really relaxes me and brings me a lot of joy. I spend tons of time combing over fashion magazines. I still buy fashion magazines because I love the feel in my hand. So that's a little fun fact about me. If you know me, you know that's definitely something I enjoy doing and spending my time with. And then one day I'm going to produce TV and film. So I spend a lot of time. That's on my list of things to do, watching films and taking notes and looking at characters and seeing who would I hire for what project. So
you are so interesting. Like, every time I talk to you, it's always something new.
Well, my path here, I've had a lot of different career changes, and I've done a lot to be dangerous in a lot of different categories. It always comes together for the work I'm doing now, but I still have a lot of creative passions that I still would like to fulfill.
Well, Sabrina, if you hire Damson Idris for any of your films or projects, please let me make sure I'm on set.
Or just hire him to stay in places so we can all just look at him.
Make sure.
Love it.
I'll definitely put you down.
The ultimate creative. I love it. And if so, do you ever dibble in like real estate staging? Because I might need you for a new business venture of mine.
I haven't, but I would. All my friends call me, so I am not the person you call to like drill holes in the wall.
Yeah,
you don't want me to do that.
Okay.
But I am the person who will be like, so what if we did this? What are you trying to bring out? Do you want it to look more boho? Are we going more modern? And I love a high-low mix as well. So making something out of nothing or making something that is inexpensive look more expensive.
That's what I'm talking about. That right there. Saving the coin. Saving the coin. I love it. I love it.
Yes.
I love
so
it. Okay.
I love to do that as well.
We got to talk about that offline. But let's get into, your time at being in a girl group. We know that has that was at the very onset early on in your career, but curious to hear about that experience, how that actually shaped your approach to how you do business, the leader that you are today? Like, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I always wanted to be a singer. Auditioned to get into the famous LaGuardia High School in New York and got in. And my family, my parents at the time, did not want me to go because of where we lived, in proximity to the school and how long it would take me, etc. And so it was one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make. And I didn't end up going. And instead, I went to a Catholic high school. So I made this decision that once I graduated, I was leaving and I was like, I have to give my dream a shot. So I kind of fibbed to my parents. I should also mention that my family, there's two sides of my family. One side is Caribbean. My mom and dad are Jamaican. I have brothers and sisters. So if you know from a Caribbean family, you don't get to like saying you want to be a singer or on the list of things you should be doing. And then the other side, my adopted family that is very much a part of rearing me is from the South. So Jacksonville, Gainesville, Florida, and they weren't about that either. That's just like something that people, you know, from older generations just never heard of. So I said, okay, I'm going to be a lawyer, which everyone can believe because I like to be right and I can run my mouth. So everybody I'm going to be a lawyer. And I came down here under that ruse. Enrolled in at Clark and began immediately. I had my first company then. I convinced record companies to let me do promotions on campus for upcoming artists. I was on campus anyway. I was trying to get in the door. I was like, this is easier than like listen to my demo. Let me start meeting executives, etc. Did all of that. And while I was doing that, I started singing, auditioning, and then became a part of a group, met two other young ladies, Nikki and Shanti. We started singing together. Long story short, we got a record deal in Japan.
Wow.
For a bunch of people. We opened for Kanye here. We toured with Common. We did a show with Tribe. At one point, we both had the same manager. So did a lot of stuff through that. And then it got to the point where, you know, you get older, I like nice things. I was like, okay, not mathing. And I started to think, well, what else am I going to do? The answer to your question, though, was how did music kind of prepare me for business? And I would say it did everything. I have the thickest skin because pursuing music, people are like, I don't like that. I don't like you. I don't like the way you're dressed, or I love you. And you can have two of those things happening at the same time, right? So the first lesson I learned is that I don't have to be for everyone, just the right people. The same way Beyonce has a ton of fans, is the same way Sade has a ton of fans. Yeah. They don't make the same music. They don't sound the same. People who don't like Beyonce, whoever those people may be, she is not sitting around worried about them. They're not stopping her from progressing. Right. And that's something that I took with me as well, that as long as you do you and you find your people, you can do well. And you don't have to be like other people in order to be in their category or of their caliber, right? Or to made it. I think the other thing it taught me is just how to be creative in approach. Music, especially back then, this is like technology is developing, but it certainly wasn't where we are today. So it also required that you were extremely creative and scrappy, like during a time where we have MySpace, but then at the same time, you're also still quasi like mailing press kits. Yeah. And going to the post office. I know I'm dating myself here a bit. Going to the post office to like send your stuff off, right? So it also taught me about like hard work. And I would say the last thing it taught me is about how to compartmentalize. So how do you go from emailing people, pitching yourself all day, mailing your press kits, to rehearsing for a song, rehearsing with the band, doing sound check, doing your makeup, putting costuming together, and then getting on the stage to hopefully command the audience, right? So that requires a lot of different sides of you. And I think when you don't have all the resources and a lot of it is dependent upon you, that's when you shine. And that's always been when I shine the most. Like, oh, we don't have that, no problem. Oh, oh, we can't afford that. Okay, we can make something else happen. And I think that allows for I do my best work when I have to use my ingenuity to make something happen.
No, I love that. And it's so interesting too, because I think when you started out, you actually had to be talented. And I don't think that that's the case today. I don't think that you have to be like ultra talented, like whatever, the singing, the dancing, all the things, you had to have something that the record executive saw in you that was sellable. Like we can market this group. So I think kudos to you. Like you have the talent, and I think that talent has transferred into everything that you're doing today. So
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I love that.
Yeah.
You know, the technology changes things, right? Now we're doing things in reverse. Now, because of technology, you can create the art, and the next thing you have to do is develop your audience. And as long as the audience likes the sound, then you're able to begin to establish a career, do shows, etc. And to your point, Akate, what's missing from that is you might develop a great sound, develop an audience, and now you have to perform and you have to translate that. And that's the piece that's often missing. Or I'm talking to all you all as PR professionals. That's where the media training that you do not have now comes in. You know, there's a lot of steps that have, get skipped now because of the technology. And I think that makes a difference for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, it's interesting because you talk about that translation, right, from one thing to the next. And one thing that October Social Media, your company, does so well is that you specialize in a lot of like highly regulated industries, which is not, I mean, talk about red tape. That's not the easiest thing to navigate, especially when you think about social media. So how did you go from music to what you're doing now? How did you identify that space as a niche, and then, or what kind of drew your focus to it, and then how did you identify that as something you wanted to tap into?
Sure. Well, how I got there was very much from music, and I know that it seems kind of disconnected, but my thought about creativity and content creation is that the same brain that manages my company or that comes up with the strategy is the same brain I use to write a song or to figure out the way to organize the music with, my partners to make sure that the show is dope, right? So it's all about taking thoughts from the intangible plane to the tangible plane. And I view everything I do, including the business, as creativity. I think people try to limit creativity to only be artistic, but it's really the act and the art of co-creation to get it across. I would say in terms of getting into regulated industries, what I was doing was creating so much content. And then in the early 2000s, I also, we called it a web show, but I had a YouTube show called Friday Girl TV. And we were able to get product placements and I was going into restaurants. I made a meal with the chef of Canoe, just myself and Ashia, who you all know, who was filming. And we just knew that this was the future. And so we started to shop that idea, like, hey, we need sponsors for this. And because we were so early, everyone was like, sponsors? What do you mean? And instead they were like, tell us more about how you created this and how you're using YouTube. And that's when I realized that there was an opportunity. From there, I had several other kind of small businesses. They were all going well and we made money, but then with each business, I discovered like, this is not quite it. This is it. And people are paying us for this, but I didn't feel like it was right. We had an education company, all related to digital. And so I decided I want to go work for a corporate organization to learn how they're using social and content creation. And I want to pair that with what I've been learning from, just being a content creator. So in doing that, my first corporate job in that space, it wasn't my first corporate job ever, but in that space was for a regulated industry. And that's when I realized that there was a big opportunity because regulation in social media feels like the antithesis of also I found it to be really a fun challenge. How do we make something that has so much regulation that some people might consider boring or sometimes too heady or intellectual? How do we make it palatable for social media audiences? How can we leverage it so that it can really help move the needle for businesses? And I found that to be an interesting challenge. I love to challenge myself, especially intellectually. And so, once I kind of got the hang of it, I was like, okay, there's other people, other industries that would be interested in it. And then, to be fair, I became a student. So at that corporation, I led social, their Fortune 500. I led social across their 5 brands. And my team was largely outsourced to a social media agency. And that's social that they did. At the time, they were doing social for Netflix, Samsung, and various Coke products. So I also was exposed to their business model. They also were completely remote at a time where, this is before the pandemic, where that was not a thing.
Yeah, just a Silicon Valley thing.
Yes. Yeah. And so I also watched them. I watched how they talked about their work and how they positioned themselves. So like here we are in suits or like extreme high level business casual, and they're walking in like hoodies and backpacks. And I was like, how do I get in? What is going on over here?
That's great. Because my tribe.
Tell people that we don't have an office with a straight face during a time where no one was doing that. And so I learned a lot, and I saw that there was an opportunity for regulation and social. And I also knew that there wasn't necessarily a ton of competition there, and that would be a good area to start my business and perhaps make a dent in, market penetration early. Look at me using tech, jargon.
I think Sabrina, when we name this episode, we need to call it Ahead of Her Time. You're just ahead of your time.
At the time, I didn't feel like it. At the time, I'm like, these ideas, nobody understands. But now, in retrospect, now it all makes sense, as they say.
Yes.
I love it.
So another question for you. With you kind of navigating that governmental space, when we think about, or when people who are watching this, who probably have their own agencies or consultancies or, are tasked with government contracts, that can be a very daunting thing to break into as far as finding the contract, doing all the paperwork to get to the end goal of securing the client.
Certifications.
The regulations, the red tape.
Yes.
What's your approach to identifying, securing, maintaining these types of contracts? Do you have any tips for entrepreneurs who might be looking to go that route?
Absolutely. First, I'll say the success we're having now is based upon probably like my third foray into government contracting. I think I did what everyone did, which is like, I'm going to go take this class because I'm going to get serious about government contracting. Then you take the class and they give you this, like, I took a class with an organization I love here, but they gave us like a big binder. And I left the class feeling like, I don't even understand. Like, I barely understood what was happening in the class. And now I have a binder.
Yes.
I just don't know. And so I put it down and I was like, we're going to try government contracting again next year.
Yeah.
So I will say that I understand that it's daunting, and to give yourself grace, give yourself time. But I definitely have tips, and I'd love to share because I'm all about put my people on. So first is, I would say, make sure that if you are building a business and you need to eat now, because I also believe in telling entrepreneurs about how to eat now and today, go ahead and establish your client base in the private sector before you begin looking for government work, unless you just already have those relationships. It does require a lot of investment in time and building relationships. And so you want to give yourself that runway. And one of the things that I did was to make sure that I had reoccurring income coming in every month, so that I wasn't concerned about whether or not this deal I'm trying to make happen is going to happen tomorrow. And I think that really helps with the approach. The second thing I did is subcontract under other people. government contracting can be antiquated in a lot of different ways, but one of the things they do really well is they're like, we know you can't do this all by yourself, or if you can't do this all by yourself, it's okay. Bring everyone with you. They encourage subcontracting and starting relationships with other businesses. And I really have to say that changed my life. When I first started October Social, I took advantage of every free programming. I'm an education nut. I signed up for every program. And one of the programs that I participated in is the SBA program SCORE, where they pair you with a business owner. I see you all nodding. And so I met with that business owner who had bought and sold multi-million-dollar businesses. And he basically was like, I want to connect you with another young lady that I met. I think y'all will hit it off. She was already well ahead of me. Let me go ahead and shout her out. Her name is Ebony Green. She is my business partner in another company. We have a joint venture together called Social for Transportation, where we focus on transportation infrastructure projects, etc. But Ebony was already working in the space as a strategic communications firm, and she brought me in on government projects. I had no idea that it did. I wish I could take credit. It never even occurred to me that social was a need in this space. Working under her, I was able to, one, see how it works, see how to navigate, see how to understand how to bill, how to hire. And it's also a safe space if you're a subcontractor, because if something goes wrong, you're not on the hook, right? The client doesn't come to you. They're talking to the prime. So you have to learn and make mistakes in a position of cover, which is a great opportunity to learn. And then while I was doing that, I also then thought about, okay, what projects can I work on where I can leverage the work that I'm doing to one day become a prime, which is what I did. So I still subcontract, but I also now get a lot of prime work because of all the subcontracting work that I did. And I would definitely recommend that. The last tip that I have is, one thing Ebony taught me too, is another Black woman, is to I don't want to say how to get around things, but let me say this. Government is all about building relationships. And sometimes building relationships means getting top of mind so that people let you know about RFPs before they come out. So that they bring you in on deals like, hey, this huge prime needs this type of company. Let's call Sabrina. And so what I also started doing was showing up to the conferences where my end users were in government. And so I would say I would go to the government social media conference, or I would go to the 8A conference and look at what opportunities were there to speak, to be on panels, to teach classes. And I did that as well. I found that there wasn't a lot of competition in that space. There weren't a lot of Black people or even Black women in that space. And so I like to go into territories where there isn't necessarily a ton of competition, that I know I can value to quickly. And again, it's educational, so I can learn while I'm there. So I would say those are the top three things. And then how I find things is I also sign up for everything. So the free the free government contracting program that we have here, they have them all across the country. It's called Apex now. The Apex office is here at Georgia Tech. You can go to them and say, hey, I'm interested in contracting, or I want to write a proposal. I want to do this. Can you help me? And I know it sounds like I'm not even an ambassador for these programs. They just legitimately have helped me. Work if you work. A lot of things work if you work.
Sabrina, the takeaways that you've given me, like in just a short amount of time, because we've talked before, you've been so helpful, but learn how to eat now. Love that.
Always eat now.
Go where there's no competition. I think some people were always trying to go where everyone else is going. It's about the road less traveled, and sign up for everything. I love those free tips. I definitely will take those with me too. But that is some gem dropping you just did there. So thank you for that.
I'm going to Apex now at the top of the year.
Yes.
I'm about to do.
And here's the last little gem I'll leave too is, as I got older, I also thought about how do I want my life to look And how do I want to design my life? So the type of clients I have are also a reflection of that. Don't get me wrong. I would love to work with like Nike, or if they call me today, but I there's a lot of competition in that area, but also like, I'm not trying to be up at 1 o'clock in the morning for a sneaker drop. And right. And now we all on the ground for the activation, and we're all up and
all that running around. No,
blah blah blah. Don't get me wrong, clients in our industries do have drops and activations, and there is that requirement, but there's less of that requirement. It looks different, the outputs look different. So we're still providing value and doing our work, and we're in our zone of genius, but I'm also working with clients that have the same values and are conducive to the life that I'm designing. And my life is a life of balance. I want to be with my family. I want to be with my husband. I want to spend time with my daughter and my mom. I want to be with my girlfriends and my friends, or sometimes just be by myself. I want to have time to do that.
No, that is music to my ears, because I think a lot of people, especially young people that are getting into the industry, when I say the industry, advertising, marketing industry, when we're all under that umbrella, they want to work with, just like you said, the Nikes, the Netflix, the Spotifys, all these great brands that we all know and love, but the commitment that you have to make in order to be successful, it is like making a deal with the devil. I'm not going to lie, because you are going to have to be so much really at the hip with that person. And they can call you at any time, any day. Holidays, let's be real.
Absolutely.
Holidays.
Absolutely.
So we're all looking forward to the holidays, and we're just like, oh, we're going to be able to take some time off and relax and relate and release. That doesn't happen if Nike's going to drop the day after Christmas.
No, it doesn't. And
it's not gonna happen.
Again, no hate, no shade today.
Right.
I think if that's what you want and that's what you have time for and the bandwidth for and the energy for, you should definitely do that. I think, as you get older, or even as your priorities change and you have to go through different life milestones, as an entrepreneur, it's really important to design what you want and make sure you're not designing like a job for yourself or a prison for yourself. There's nothing worse than feeling trapped in something of your own design. That's the worst type of prison.
Speak it.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, oh, I hate this, and I did it to myself. That's the worst type of feeling.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm going to change directions real quick, because this is the segment in this particular time in our episode where we like to really talk about who had the audacity. It could be this week, it could be, a month past, but anyone in pop culture, sports, anyone even in your daily lives that you've interacted with that had the audacity, and you were like, wow, that person really had the audacity. So I'm going to actually reserve you for last, Sabrina, because I want to give you some time. But I'm going to go to my sisters in arms, Tawanda and Nakia, to talk about who had the audacity for them this week, this month, whatever.
Yeah, I could start. I mean, I actually had a couple in mind. The first one that came to mind, I don't know if you all have seen the new Netflix special, Jamie Foxx.
Yes.
What had happened was, and if you're familiar with he's been in the news lately the last year and a half. He had sort of a medical scare, and it was actually here in Atlanta where he was filming. And I thought that just the way that he was able to get really vulnerable, I don't think I've ever seen him like that, and how he has turned his pain into this vessel of what his gift is. I thought it was super brilliant. Up until, when this was released, they were very quiet. His team, marketing, PR, everyone did a really good job of kind of like really tightening, all of the speculations. There was a lot of rumors going on out there, and they weren't addressing them. But I think they did a very beautiful, heartfelt, strategic job at, really showcasing how he was so transparent, and then it was still just the whole balance of him being his true Jamie Foxx self, which I just I loved it.
I think Jamie Foxx
is
is probably one of the greatest storytellers of our time. And I don't think people realize that. You have to go back and look at a lot of interviews that he's done over the years. Mm-hmm. And when he has a sit down one-on-one with someone, it's amazing. Like, he really does tell a great story from beginning to end. And so I'm in agreement with you, Nakia. Like, I was crying at some points. I was laughing at some points. I was just like kind of taken back, you know, with some of the things that he mentioned, but it's worth watching. And I wholeheartedly think that who had the audacity, that his team, they did
that. They did that beautifully.
Sure. Yeah, and I was looking at his outfit, and there was some commentary around it of how it eerily mirrored Martin Lawrence when he came back from his health scare, down to the color, the type of fabric. It was like leather. So they just kind of made some parallels between the two comeback stand-up moments. So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
There's actually a local designer Atlanta designer designed his look.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He said Atlanta saved his life. He said it many, many times throughout the special. So shout out to Piedmont
Hospital. That's our second tagline. Atlanta influences everything. Atlanta saves lives.
Yes.
Come here and get the life saved unless we say we're closed.
Yes.
What about you, Tawanda? Who had the audacity?
For me, I think this TikTok ban has the audacity to keep me on the edge of my seat a little bit, because it's just become such a big part of social media culture. And this US ban, it doesn't seem like it's getting anywhere. I think they just tried to push another push through of getting it unbanned, and it didn't work. And I'm just curious to see what influencers or content creators will do if it's banned, what platforms will move over to, which ones will kind of rear back up. But the TikTok ban has the audacity for me right now, just to be even a thing.
You know what's so interesting, Tawanda, that you said, what are the content creators, the influencers, what are they going to do? Some of them have already started saying, hey, go over here, especially small businesses. They're like, hey, go to YouTube, we have all our content over there. It really has the smart ones will get in front of this and not just wait for, which I don't think TikTok is ever going to go down. I think they have too much money, though. This will be in court forever. But I do think that getting in front of it, being smart and being proactive is the way to go if you are a small business content creator. I'm not worried about the big brands, because they actually were successful prior to social media, and they have the money to be successful without social media in general. But for the content creators and the smaller, businesses, I think being proactive is a good strategy for them, just in case something does happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I think ever since there was remnants, this has been going on for quite some time now. So they should have started. At this point, you're kind of being reactive, honestly.
Yeah.
Because of course, it takes time to build, when you're having this transfer of a new channel, it's going to take some time to build that audience and to really get, incentivize them to want to meet you at this other channel. You know what I mean? So that's another thing to consider.
Absolutely. And they're saying that fan base, which is run by Isaac Hayes Jr., is the most comparable to TikTok if you're going to make the change. There's been another fan base is Black run and operated in majority, but over at fan base you also get equity, so that you get to participate in the revenue being made. So something to explore. I am not a part of fan base. I'm just like you, looking at what the options are, what the choices are, and what the landscape is looking like outside of recommendations for the clients. We also like to keep up with the business of social, and it's just a reminder that you do not own these channels. Right? This is media, right? Distribution channel, and so you should always be thinking about, okay, now that you've created this audience, what are you going to do with them? Where are you going to send them, so that you can extract your own data that you can leverage and use, because that is the name of the game, having your audience so that you can leverage data in order to share with brands or execute your own initiatives. We are all in the data game.
Yes.
That's the long and the short of it. So absolutely. Is it my turn to go for audaciousness?
It is your turn, Sabrina. Yes.
I took over co-hosting. My audacious shout out is to Nikki Giovanni. As you all know, she recently passed, and she has lived her life in an audacious space.
Yes.
And so from a young age, I think that's the part that's so just amazing and audacious about the whole thing, that from an early age, we're talking like 18, 19 years old, being just outspoken. Very and much. Down for the people, down for Black people, down for women, later down for queerness, being out queer. There's just so many things, especially for her generation, that was just amazing for her to speak out on, at a time when you didn't say those things out loud, when women were viewed as, you should be at home, you should be a homemaker. What do you mean you're a poet? What is saying I'm going to be a writer and a poet for a living, right? Dreaming can be audacious, even especially if you are a part of a minority or a disenfranchised group. It's outstanding. And for her words to resonate with so many people, when she passed, I just saw so many people online talking about that they had read her poems. And you just have no idea, because it doesn't always come up in, regular conversation, what people are reading or what they're seeing. And to know that a community of Black women were raised on her words and inspired to be Black and audacious, it's just really dope. And I think what all artists and, just people strive for, to create something or to be someone that influences people in a positive way, and leaves a legacy. And I think that's, pretty dope.
Okay, we have one last segment, and we're gonna make this quick, because coming up, we've been just kikiing all the time. I love it. But we're gonna call this the rapid fire, where we want to ask you a few questions, Sabrina. You give us some real quick responses. I'm very curious, and I'm sure the audience is, why did you name the company October Social Media?
Oh, that's an easy one. My birthday's in October. I had to establish the company quickly, and I was like, October has always been one of the names or the monikers I used to sing under is October Rose, which is a mixture of the month I was born and my middle name. And so I was like, oh, that's always been really lucky for me. And I just I have a thing about names and how they sound. So that's why. And then also it's the month of harvest, so I'm wearing our brand colors. That's why green. So
I love it.
Producing fruit, producing green, phosphorus,
the money,
planting. Yes, the money, but also planting seeds.
Right? Yes.
What social is, right? Nakia was just talking about establishing your audience, and before you can establish an audience, you have to plant the seeds and pour into them so that you can cultivate the ground.
Absolutely.
You can only do that if you are providing value, like what you all are doing with, the podcast. And so that's a part of it as well. Reaping what you sow, planting that abundance, sowing into other people so that we can reap abundance for us all.
Okay. Second question. What's the most important ingredient for building a successful, long-lasting partnership within your business?
A partnership within your business. Trust.
Love it. Absolutely agree. And the last question is, what is one book or resource every leader should read or know about?
Oh my gosh, that's a hard one. I read a lot. I think there's so many books. When I was first starting out, these books really helped me. I know you said only one, but the E-Myth was really good. The Pumpkin Plan, which is essentially all about creating systems and processes in your business and making sure that you pay yourself. A lot of entrepreneurs start their business and they are paying everyone except themselves. And sometimes you have to do that. But if you're paying everyone but yourself, your business isn't working for you the way that you like it to. And so even if the pumpkin plan is about, even if it's just a little bit you're carving out, to make sure that you always pay yourself first, or just what are you doing?
Yes. Sabrina, you are just amazing. Yes. I feel like every time I talk to you, every time I'm in your presence, I get so inspired, just creatively, the hustle in me, like all the things, like you embody so many great things. So we just so appreciate you joining this episode. And of course, this wraps up another one of our episodes.
I want to stay forever.
Yes.
This is the last episode for 2024. So
yes. But y'all, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to download Black and Audacious on Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify. Like and comment, subscribe. You have any thoughts just based on today's conversation, we would love to hear it. Please bring all that energy. Please bring maybe potential guests you may want to see on the call on the show. But until then, Happy New Year and stay Black and audacious.
Bye.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, thank you, Sabrina.